Now in the cloud, in the flesh, Mollie Eliasof. So at the beginning of the year, I was trying out the whole Clubhouse thing, and I was popping into different groups, and then I saw a group about relationships and mindset and all that, and I had some questions on how to deal with relationships with the kids, right? And Mollie blew me away. So then I just followed her everywhere she was to get, all these golden nuggets and stuff. And I figured, you know what, I think it would be a great thing for her to share about, her experience in helping people deal with others, but also dealing with yourself. She's an expert at those kinds of things. And I wanted her to, you to be introduced to her, but also give some insider tips on how we can overcome these crazy things that we do to ourselves. So appreciate you, Mollie. If you can give a little bit of a background, a better description of it, that would be great.
To have this conversation, and it's always a joy to connect with you and chat with you more, Rob. So I'm glad everyone's getting to tune into that too. So hi everyone, I'm Mollie. I have been a psychotherapist for 15 years, which sounds crazy, but it's been that long. And I specialize in working with high-powered people. So in the last few years, I've also added this consulting business where I've kind of taken everything I've gotten training around and condensed it and kind of made my own formula. So in a month span, people go from kind of unstuck to feeling really clear with where they're going and the action steps they need to take. So if you're stuck in your own self, we have multiple lenses to talk about it, and I'm excited to see you just catapult and be the best you could be.
Yeah, that's huge because, I think it's common for a lot of high performers, right, to be so used to being the camp counselor. I'm always on, good front facing, and then while neglecting their own, self-care or even pushing it further back and maybe even forgetting about it. So how would you address these, influencer, high power, like A-type, coaches and consultants that secretly have things they need to deal with, but aren't open, to really, or maybe even just not knowing how to deal with it?
Yeah, there's so many answers. So we'll go small and then we can go deep. I think it's really, I think it's really important to remember that every client you work with, yourself, every family member, everyone in your life that you touch at all is going through something or has gone through something. It is the human experience. To really have emotions of all levels, of all spectrum, is a human experience. So if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you can only be part of yourself, know that is really normal. The goal is to just be. It's to be your fullest self. And I'm telling you so much that clients feel that. People around you feel that. And so the goal becomes to tap into that so you, A, can be free and just be yourself and be amazing, but also that, B, the people you work with get the same feeling from you that they can just be, right? And that you're accessible. You're not this perfect person who's got it all figured out, but that you are someone they can actually talk to. So super helpful to let yourself go there and play with that.
How do you get to that point though? That's rough, isn't it?
I definitely think so, especially if you're someone who is a high achiever, right? Because you're probably super used to having all your ducks in a row, everything being super organized and, really framed or formulated. It's a step-by-step process. So just like any new skill you're learning, it takes time. And I always like to think about it as putting your toe in the water. So you really want to allow yourself to play with one piece, one aspect of that in your life. So maybe it feels too threatening to do that in your workspace. Maybe you're also a little, in the most positive, loving way, neurotic with your home, the way you organize your closets. Maybe you just test what it looks like to not put all your shoes away every night and just see how it feels to not be so in a row. And the more you get comfortable with what that feels, and of course you can still be tidy and stuff I'm suggesting, the more you can then play with that in other areas that feel maybe more important than your closet. And that allows you to slowly start to get not only the feeling of how you can be more comfortable, but what other people will do in response to you being more at ease. And I think the more positive reinforcement you get from people being like, wow, you're so much easier to talk to. Wow, you seem so relaxed. It's going to feel actually really exciting and enjoyable to show up more as you.
So positive, so really stacking the positive reinforcement, no matter how small it is, right?
Absolutely. And that's not going to happen always, right? You have to know that some people are going to expect you to be the you they know. So if they're used to you being this way currently, it's going to be a surprise. Maybe they'll be uncomfortable. Maybe they'll feel like all of a sudden you're a little bit of a mess and they're not going to be into it as much. Not everyone's going to be drawn to it, but I go back and maybe this is going to seem super random. There's a video of Jay-Z talking about himself and what it's been like to be in his career. And one of the things he says is like, I made a conscious choice, I'm paraphrasing here, but I made a conscious choice that early in my career, I wanted to be me because everything else is too exhausting. And at the end of the day, that's the truth. Wow. The goal is to be yourself. So you're in your skin, you can show that to others, but also that you don't have to work so hard to be something that you're not.
Yeah, that's good. So I've got a question regarding that.
Cool.
So how would you answer, or what would you say about the person, that old saying of my biggest enemy is my inner me, right? That saying, that could be a battle too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because you're fighting an uphill battle that's just like all wonky.
Yep. And one of the things that I love to have people start with when I work with them is to love every voice internally. So that might sound a little woo, so you might not be really into it, but to go with me here, if there's a piece of you that's really like, I'm trying to find a kind, softer word for it, perfectionistic, let's go with that. Mm-hmm. There's a piece of you that needed that. At some point in your life, you needed to have that level of control, that level of hitting the mark. That was either told to you or you felt like that was really important. And often those themes come from like when we are trying to survive, right? Maybe you had people around you who expected you to be really rigid and you did that in order to avoid like penalty. Going back and understanding what the purpose of that is, and then being really like loving to that piece of you is so important, because just telling that piece of you it's wrong is not going to make you feel good either, right? So as you're nurturing to that piece of you, it starts to allow more space for other pieces of you. Let's say the pieces that are curious about what I'm talking about. And then you can start playing and then attending to both voices simultaneously.
Wow. I like the idea of trying to be something else is exhausting, right? And then being able to love yourself and listening to the multiple voices and being okay with it, right? Because it's different phases of the same person, it sounds like.
Yeah, different phases and also different pieces of ourselves. I mean, if you think about who you are as a parent versus you as like, you at work, you've got a different voice. It doesn't mean that they're not both you. There's just a different energy behind it, right? And so it's the same thing. We have different pieces of our inner self, like the piece that likes to play and the piece that likes to be serious, right? And so being able to be like, both things are really important. And I love both pieces of me and I respect that. And both pieces have a space and a place, either in history or currently. I have to know how they share space and time together.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. Now, with the different pieces of us, right? I imagine that some people have a piece that communicates only to that particular market, right? So I'm a health coach, but I also love to bake. So the bakers only know me as a baker, and I don't know if I want to offend them with the health coach stuff. Now, that can be exhausting, right?
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that? Because they're completely disjointed.
Yeah. So I would think about yourself. Like, why are both things important to you? Where is the marriage for both of those things in your life? Forget your clients for a second, just in your life. Are you someone who's so focused and structured on your health that baking is like the reprieve? It's like your cheat days, if you believe in that kind of concept, right? And so baking becomes this like play fun that you get to enjoy. Or are you a health coach that believes everything in moderation and really enjoys the exploration of just being in the kitchen and then being able to choose what we love? You have to figure out why it's important to you to be able to explain why it would be helpful to other people. Now, there's no guarantee that your market's going to like love this piece of you, because we're not trying to be perfect for anyone. We just have to be ourselves. Wow. So if you share your story, people will either get pulled or repelled, and that's okay. You being more you is going to entice more the right fits for you.
Wow, this seems so counterintuitive to a lot of mainstream media and, you know, pop culture, right? Because they're saying, hey, fit into a niche or into a box and do the best that you can. Whereas if you're just all of you in the whole mess and that beautiful thing, that's actually might be even better, you know?
Yeah. And let's not even think about it as a mess. Let's just think about it like we're all complex people. So like the examples that popped into my head, you know, during like quarantining and the social media explosion again, especially on TikTok, you know, it's like Jennifer Gardner, right? Like she's this like badass and alias, but like she has this cooking show that she does, you know, like you get to just get to know a human, and all of a sudden there's more likability because you're like, oh, she's great. She's not just a mysterious, beautiful woman. She also can be really playful and silly, right? It makes it more appealing to be able to get closer to a person. And so being more you, I think, is going to automatically make people feel more intrigued by who you are, at least the right people.
Yeah, wow. So being imperfect is actually perfect.
You nailed it. Perfect.
Wow, wow. Ego and self-sabotage, that's a buzzword, right? But that also can be disguised in other things that, you know, high achievers would shun. But what's your number one tip on how to tackle ego, right? And either being too controlling over the self-sabotage or actually cowering and like self-sabotaging?
So I don't know how much you're going to like my answer, but I'm just going to be me and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
I don't buy into buzzwords. I think what's most important is that you have language that fits and works for you. So I think we get really caught up, especially in like kind of psycho jargon of feeling like either that's us or that not us. And all of a sudden there's like this repelling and repulsing, and it's too intense. I think instead we have to figure out like, where are we getting stuck? So when we talk about ego, are you feeling like your pride's getting in the way from you taking a risk and a chance? Are you feeling with self-sabotage, which is the concept like I just don't believe in? Mm-hmm. I think that we put up barriers that maybe get in our way from getting what we want from life. And thinking about that it's self-sabotage, I think automatically sets us up mentally that this is like an impossible hurdle, right? We're always going to be in this loop. Instead, think about, okay, well, why did I put these barriers up to begin with? Why were they helpful back in the day? Why are they helpful now? Why am I still using it? What's the secondary gain? Can tell us so much about how do we, you know, reverse engineer and work backwards so we get closer to what we want. So bullet point here is like, instead of getting wrapped up in the jargon, how do you just understand where you're stuck so you can figure out how you need to move through that and move forward?
Got it. So be clear. And so it's a little shift, right, in the way that you view it.
Yep, 100%. And it's still okay that any of those things feel like they resonate for you. You know, if you feel like the language helps clarify what you're struggling with, then use it. You just have to figure out what makes sense internally for you and when you communicate about it. And if you're feeling like your pride is getting in your way, let me address your question a little bit more directly. I think it's really important to like sit down and reflect on who you want to be in the long run. Right? The big thing I always come back to is like, what do you want your biography or autobiography to look like when you're in your last few chapters? And what does this current chapter mean? What's purpose like does it have for you, right? Because we all are going to have chapters that are going to kind of be this like awkward growth or this like learning process that doesn't feel so fun to be in, but it's going to be so essential for the next chapter. So you know, what are you aiming for in the long run? And how do you reflect on and think about the ways in which your pride are maybe serving a purpose that you're scared and you're trying to launch forward? And how do you understand that so you can get to the place you want to be at the end of that book?
I like that. I like that. While you're talking, my mind took me to the word stuck, right? So stuck is not a person, it's a place. Yeah. And as long as your eyes is fixed on the purpose, you can, you know, divorce the emotional attachment to the stuckness. Because if you believe you're stuck as a person, that's the wrong perspective. because stuck is just a momentary thing. Focus on the purpose.
Yes.
So
that's good. It's the same way I feel about lazy. No one is lazy. We have moments where we might be feeling lethargic, or we might be feeling deflated, where we might be feeling unmotivated or unclear on how to get through. It is an umbrella term that doesn't really tell us anything, right? So how do we understand what is happening? And then how do we describe it so accurately for us that also gives us room to make change, right? So the same thing goes with how you just described that. I love that.
Wow, that's deep, because again, that goes against the grain from like, especially growing up, right? You're lazy, stop being lazy, right? And then now like, oh, lazy is bad. But what I'm hearing is, if you're lazy, it's okay. Embrace the laziness, because it's just momentary.
That, and like, what does it actually mean? Like, I understand what laziness really means. I think lazy is something that we've used to mean multiple different things, right? Lazy can mean I'm confused about what to do to get started. Lazy can mean I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do to get started. Lazy can mean I'm tired and don't have energy, right? So if we can get actually clearer on what the challenge is, it's the same thing with changing the word for ego. Is it your pride? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Like, what is going on? That gives you a clearer way to find an antidote to get through that.
Man, this is so much gems, so much gold. Oh my gosh. I'm glad this is recorded, because then we can just always go back, right? Always go back. Wow. What do you typically see in the high performer, high achievers that you work with? Like, is there a common theme and pattern that a lot of them, struggle with and, overcome?
We definitely can talk about their challenges. I want to talk about their strengths first, because I think it's important. I think high achievers are people who see limitlessness and who are curious about limitlessness, right? I love that. That's who I love to work with, because I just want everyone to be their greatest self, however you define that. And for the whole world to improve just because everyone's being their greatest self, right? Like, that's so, obviously you can tell, I can really say that's so cool to me, right? And so I think one of the greatest strengths of a high achiever is just the ability to like go and be and try and like keep pushing past all the limitations we have been taught or that are in our mind. I think the challenge for every person, including someone who is a high achiever, are those limits, right? We get scared, we get nervous, it gets, difficult to move past them when they pop up, especially when they're really loud, right? When everyone is telling us something, when we're telling ourselves something over and over again. So I think one of the biggest challenges is to move through that, and to do that with support, right? Often I see that high achievers are used to working within isolation. Yes. They're really used to feeling like it's their job to fix it and solve it. And so asking for help, asking for support is super nerve-wracking, or you're self-judging. There's so many things that happen. And I see it takes a long time for high achievers to go, you know what, this is something I don't like. I fix everything else like this when I see a problem. Why can't I do the same thing for myself? Let me just get the support now. And I see a huge difference in high achievers who are able to do that versus the ones that take 6 months to ask for it. It's like night and day, because the people who ask for it right away, the ceilings keep breaking and they keep moving.
What's a clear red flag to know that, okay, I'm not going to break through this. Let me find help.
Ooh, well,
a clear indicator, like, okay, yeah, no, hello.
Okay, so not that they can't break through it, but that they need help. Is that the question?
Yeah. What will clue them in?
Anyone can break through anything. Let's not say that, right? Okay, good, cool, same page. I think when you've gotten to a place where maybe you've tried 1 to 2 things, like you've tried to problem solve once, twice by yourself, and you're hitting a wall, or think about how you decide to get help for any other piece of your business, right? So let's use maybe an example that might feel a little mundane. You're trying to figure out why your landing pages aren't that effective, right? Maybe you try 2 things on your own. Okay, I'm going to tweak the copy a little bit, and I'm going to add some like fresh places I posted and see what happens, right? And you notice that nothing changes. Well, is that when you bring in someone who's a marketing specialist, or do you try 5 more times and then bring in someone? I think you can also look at the pattern of when and how you get support and then try and do that parallel. Now, the caveat is that's an ongoing issue in your business. You're noticing it takes you forever to ask for help. This might be a thing to work on in all areas of your life, right? And it's hard. If, again, you're someone who's high achieving, it's often a challenge to go, you know what, I'm going to make this easier for myself, right? Because we think we can like do it all, but easier allows you to do more.
And if easier means somebody else does it, give up the control and let them do it.
I mean, yeah, because like your area of genius should be flourishing, right? Why get stuck on the thing that is not the place you feel most confident, is not the thing that comes to you with most ease? Why not allow yourself to allow a specialist who loves what they do to handle it for you so you can actually do more of what you're amazing at?
The way you describe that is so like, you know, clear and like spot on. Oh, it's like, dude. So I think a lot of people also don't know what that person looks like for them to get the help, right? So, because they can go Google or they can ask referrals. That's the only indicator or, you know, measuring stick that they have. But what would you recommend on what that, you know, that person looks like that's a good, you know, support?
Yep. I would go with someone who's credentialed. So I know that's going to be a really open-ended answer. I'll get more specific, but I would go with someone who's credentialed. I think it's really important that you know the background of where someone's coming from. And even if that's years of experience to you, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that someone's got like a doctorate. It's just really important that you know the background of where this person's coming from, because you're going to receive the years of experience in a whole other way. And training, right? So that's going to give you so much more, because the goal is to get you there faster. Now, not everyone who's experienced is exceptional. The second piece of this is you have to find a really great fit for you, right? So I know, again, I'm still being vague on the what type, and I'm going to get there in a second, but you want to be able to find a personality match. Now, since I know there are coaches watching this, you can think about your clientele, right? Not every client is a good client for you, right? Sometimes it's just like not a fit of who you are as human, and therefore it just doesn't work, right? You want to think the same thing when you get support. It's really helpful to think, do I feel comfortable? Do I feel at ease? Do I feel like myself? And does that person bring that out to me? My rule of thumb usually is like 4 appointments at most. And if you're still gut saying like, this isn't a fit, turn away. And if you want to do it before that, like it's fine, but like, don't go longer than 4 appointments if you're feeling like this is not a personality fit. Now let's talk about the who just a little bit. I'm a really big fan in you figuring out what works best for you. So when I have talked to people about different supports that are available, I try to be as vague as possible so you can find what you bond with. Now, if that's like a spiritual guidance, if that's someone who's in your religious community, if that's a therapist, if that's a coach, you have to kind of know what feels like it makes sense to you, it resonates with you. And at the same time, I would strongly suggest if you've tried that same modality multiple times and you don't feel like you're getting through, it's a great opportunity to try a new modality. So let's say you've done coaching for years now and you feel like it's gotten you kind of to the same place, you're feeling the plateau, maybe it's time to try a therapist and see what happens. Doesn't mean it's going to be a fit for you, but how can you switch it up so you keep growing? Got it.
Wow. That's good. Oh man. The question that popped in my head is, what do you do or what do you say to somebody who feels like they don't want to feel like a quitter? So they want to keep trying to, you know, force it and go against the grain and, you know, push against the wall. Because if they stop and ask for help, I'm a quitter. You know, I'm a failure. Because it's a perspective thing, but from your, you know, expert opinion, how would you navigate that conversation?
Why are you talking so meanly about yourself? Like, just, why would you say more loving things to yourself? And that's a thing to think about too. Like, why would you, like, the other way I say it, if you get stuck with that question, is like the person you love so much in your entire world being, whether that's your child or your spouse or your parent, whoever you would like do anything for, you love them so much. Would you be that harsh with them? Is that how you would speak to them? And if not, how would you say it to them? And then how can you say that to yourself, right? So if you're feeling like a quitter and you had your 10-year-old crying on the bed going, I'm a quitter, I'm the worst, I'm failing, would you go with that narrative, or would you stop and go, you're incredible, you're stuck at this. This is really hard right now and you don't know what to do. So we need to think about whether this is something A, you like, B, what other resources exist, and C, how to move through it when we have stuck and difficult moments, or we have to be that nurturing to ourselves, right? That's how we move forward. So it's really important that if you're in that moment, you can start to reflect on what is challenging here and what do you want it to look like ideally? And then what will help you, or who will help you get closer to that, in my mind, ideally faster.
Yeah, that's good. So it seems like there's a lot of self-talk and shifting of language that's imperative in order to overcome the issues. Okay, so shifting the language to ourselves, and then also shifting the way that we look at how we perceive whether or not we're stuck or we fail. It's changing it a little bit.
Yeah, the mind is a powerful tool, and the more we are able to have a positive, loving experience up here, the more we're able to shift and reframe and challenge ourselves in a way that's positive and affectionate, and that allows us to then move forward and have more of what we want, because this is always with us, until it's not but like this is always with us. So how do we take care of that so that we're always our best self, no matter what costume or makeup we have or don't have on, we're able to really be in sync with ourselves and then the world around us.
And anyone can do this. Anyone can overcome these crazy personal issues.
Yeah. And they're not crazy. They're just challenges, right? Like even that we can reframe. It's so colloquial that we use all of these terms all the time, but really being able to say everyone's got a mind and everyone's gets stuck, and everyone has the power to shift that feeling of being stuck. And I do too.
Wow. Everyone has the power. That's powerful. Yeah, that holds a lot of weight. Wow. So in case people wanted to hunt you down and chat with you, where can they find you?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at More with Mollie, Mollie, or you can honestly shoot me an email. I'm sure you'll put my name down. It's a little hard to spell. It's Mollie@mollieliasof.com, Eliasof. But I know you're the best at all the details. I'm sure you'll help them out. Yeah, and I would love to chat with you if you want to just give feedback or thoughts about anything we talked about here, or if you want to learn more about how I work with people. I do more consulting now, where I work with people for a month, and it's a short, rapid experience where when you're stuck, you get unstuck. We can talk about the two, or I could even give more resources and information of the helpers that I know in this world. I'd be happy to.
Nice. Boy, this has been amazing. Yeah, you're amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it. This is great.
Amazing. Ditto.
Awesome. So I'm going to put your email and all this, underneath the video so people can directly contact you. But this is huge. This is incredible. Thank you. This has been good. All right. Thanks.
It's my pleasure. You're an amazing human. People are lucky to have this community, and it's my honor to be able to talk to them.
Thank you.